Okay, I'm going to call to order the Committee of the Whole, number 215 for April 27th. And in honor of the Liwa-Tul, the Village of Pemberton acknowledges that we are meeting within the unceded territory of the Liwa Nation. This meeting of council is being held virtually with all meeting participants attending via electronic communications to adhere to PHO orders respecting physical distancing requirements as a measure to prevent the transmission of COVID-19. Council members will be involved in and participate in the meeting virtually as they would in person. For members of the public in attendance, please note that this meeting is a live webinar and is being recorded. A recording of the meeting will be available on the village's website following the meeting. Council members attending the meeting are required to verbally advise the chair when they leave and return to the meeting so that this can be recorded in the minutes. For clarity, if a council member does not verbally advise the chair but is observed to be absent from their video feed and it is unclear to staff whether they are present in the meeting, the council member will be marked absent from the meeting until such time as staff observes the council member to reappear in the video feed. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve as presented?
Approved as presented.
Councilor Noble, second by Councilor Zant. Discussion. Any opposed? Motion carries. Adoption of minutes from Committee of the Whole 214 from April 13th. Moved by Councilor Noble. Second by Councilor Zant. Any discussion? Any opposed? Motion carries. So we have a delegation joining us, so we'll wait for Ms. Tenbrink.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, good afternoon, Ms. Stenbrink. Thank you for joining us. If you're all good to go, I'd love to turn it over to you to hear about your Good Food Program.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, Mayor Richmond. Hi, everyone. My name is Crystal Tenbrink, and I work with the Squamish Food Policy Council as the Executive Director. I think some of you I may know if you also sit on the SLRD. This is already a repeat presentation. I'll make it brief and allow more time for Q&A, as I think I have only 10 minutes max. So I don't have a formal presentation, but you likely would have received some supporting documents for the reason why we're here today. I'm here today. So I'll just give a very brief overview and then be very clear about the ask and what things might look like moving forward. And then we'll go from there. So just a bit of context first. As you may be aware, from 2017 to 2020, the Whistler Center for Sustainability initiated a Squamish to Lillooet regional food program. And there was various, there was a SWOT analysis that was done to identify the strengths, the areas of the food system around strengths and weaknesses and challenges and gaps and all that. And a few things came up, and one of the high priority identified action items was actually to develop a good food program. And, you know, to be honest, I wasn't aware of it even before we were talking about it. And I, you know, since then learned so much about the benefits of what a good food program is. And so it's really comprised of a pledge and a background and a policy. And the program is led by us, this particular program, in support with other nonprofits. And essentially we're following these 5 main good values, which are local economies and communities, environmental sustainability, stewardship of natural resources, nutrition, valued workforce, and animal welfare. And we're really, part of this is to, if anyone has to purchase or procure food with their organization, such as yourselves, maybe those lunches or other things that you may procure food for special events and whatnot, community engagements back when we used to have them. Hospitals, schools, other organizations also have to procure food. And so with our first ask, we're actually going to all local and regional governments and asking them to endorse the pledge and hopefully get a chance to bring it into some procurement work that they may or may not be doing already. At least that's what a few other local governments can do. So it depends on where the timing is for everyone. There's a lot of impacts with procurement work. Just alone, local government school districts in BC spend $6.7 billion annually just on purchasing food. And so if we were to start focusing our purchasing of food that's grown and produced in the region, we get to not only have a better impact on the economy, but also on our footprint as well, and then to support our neighbors and friends with their food businesses as a first priority before purchasing outside of our region. And it's not to say you can't purchase outside of your region. It's to say that we want as a first priority for you to think about the region first. And I think a lot of this probably already aligns with you, being a farming community. And so our first call to action is for all local governments to endorse the pledge and see where they might be able to turn this into policy and turn this into something more that might be practical as you procure your food throughout the year, maybe post-COVID. And from there, we're going to hit up the school districts, the hospitals, other school and learning institutions like Quest, or perhaps other schools that might exist, different food industry businesses, other food purchasers, private businesses, corporate offices, and grocery stores. And so that's sort of what the second phase will look like. And the third phase will essentially be program development. With that comes just more information and education about making it easier for people to actually procure food. I might mention that one of the aspects of this regional food, the policy and the why I'm here today, there's a few other ways that we're exploring as to, well, let's say I want to do this. Well, now how do I actually get to be able to purchase more regional food? And another initiative that we're focused on is to explore what a virtual food or farm hub might look like. And so we're about to do community engagement with folks that live all across Squamish Valley, right through to Whistler, Pemberton, and in Lillooet as well. And that's from a supply side as well as a consumer side. So yeah, so that's, I don't know if you folks had a chance to have a look at the documents that I had sent. And if you have any questions about this, it's obviously really big picture right now and pretty high up, but similar to what a charter can do, this is sort of an educational tool, and we're asking for endorsement for this and see where you might be able to find room for it in some of your inner workings.
Thank you so much. Questions? Go ahead, Councillor Craddock.
Yeah, thanks very much. And excuse me, I did get a chance to read your presentation and enjoyed reading it. I had to read it a second time just to try to absorb it all. At the end of the day, if all this works out the way that you're hoping to, what kind of budgeting are you going to need to continue through with what you're asking for? In other words, at the end of the day, what am I going to have to go to my taxpayer with next year and say, council decided to endorse this and this is what the cost is going to be? Can you give us a rough idea?
You know, we've received external funding to actually do this work, to build the program. We received external funding, not from local governments. And there's a lot of external funding available to this. And so we haven't even talked about if we're going to even ask local governments to support this, because we may, and it might be a little bit, but that won't be perhaps until the next fiscal year. We've got some program development to do, and we'll likely be applying for external funding. The big component, the big benefit for us is if you actually come on and endorse it, that gives us leverage to say, you know what? The whole region, everybody supports this. All the different districts, as well as the SLRD, would love to be able to reach out to some of the nations as well. And so that means that we have unanimous support. And I can take that to a funder and say, here's our plan. We would love $20,000 to do this, knowing that we have support from everyone. So right now I have no dollar figure in mind. And we had no high, it wasn't we won't be coming to ask you for $20,000. If we did, we would probably have a conversation. It won't be 20,000. It might be a small amount, but we're not there yet.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Questions? So the idea on going through, did you have your hand up, Councillor Noble?
Yeah, I just want to say I think it's a really great initiative, which aligns with my own values very much. And I would like to support it in any way we can.
Thank you. So
Do you folks have procurement policies or anything that you're working on right now or that's ongoing, maybe aligned with your OCP?
it's something that's been discussed about building a procurement policy, but we don't have much in play.
We do have our OCP review coming up,
Mm.
and our current purchasing policy is local as much as possible.
Great. You're already ahead of the game. That's awesome.
The so phase two would be so phase one, or if I understand correctly, we would be to pledge, to endorse the pledge, and phase two in terms of the procurement, how you would support, how the program would support local government, school districts, that sort of thing. They would make it easier. They would provide contact and liaison somehow to be able to do that procurement. Is that part of the work?
Yeah, exactly. So it's essentially identifying sort of like key performance indicators, just really educating businesses and communities on how do you actually participate in this program, because I realize that there's a lot of some new language and this is a bit of a new idea, new program. There's many other case studies that have people have been doing this for many years already. So we're sort of taking some of the best practices as to what exists and learning from what's worked with them and what hasn't worked, and then adjusting what we might do to ensure that what we're doing is accessible to the general public and to business owners and organizations, people who are decision makers. We will eventually then identify standards and certifications, a rating system, and then do ongoing evaluation. So we really see this as a way for people to sort of also proudly say that 60% of what our kitchen cooks in a restaurant comes from the region, and can actually quantify that. And so that's one way that we can, that's sort of part of phase two, is establishing all of the framework behind the scenes, and then promoting the program and getting people to participate in it. And we don't know exactly what that part will look like. It will likely be free, and we will be asking for external funding, like I mentioned before.
No, I think that's great, because I think it is easier than people realize to procure locally. And I'm particularly excited about phase three, because I think it could be made a lot easier. And I've always been really interested in trying to develop some sort of food hub for the Pemberton Valley and the region. And I know some of the work that's being done by the Society in Lillooet. But I've always wanted to, there's so much of our product that travels down the highway, and it's for reasons from either it's the easy available market, or there's less processing required on the farm. You don't have to wash your potatoes. You could just ship them in a big truck, as opposed to washing them here, packaging them for store. So, we've talked about having the ability to process our food in a centralized way, and then store and have that hub. Because for the very simple example, in my mind, there's no reason we should ever have to buy a potato for anywhere else at any week of the year, 52 weeks of the year. But nonetheless, our shelves in February are stocked with food and carrots and potatoes and carrots come from all over. So we're burning greenhouse gases, shipping it down the highway. We're shipping a whole bunch up. So I'm particularly excited in phase three, I think.
Yeah, and Mayor Richmond, I might just mention, we're actually we're actually already talking about phase three, and I'll be doing community engagement this year, but I will make sure to throw you all on my list of people to engage with. And if you have feedback, opinions, I want to hear them. You have questions, concerns, I want to hear them all. We're essentially getting ready to apply for a very large grant in the fall from the same funders who funded this pilot, this project research for this summer. And so I'm just putting my list together and putting the background information together. So essentially step 3 is happening at the same time as step 1, but if there's not support across the region from both farmers and consumers and users of the system, we won't move forward with it. If there is lots of support and people to participate in the program, then we will move forward with step 3 before step 2.
Awesome.
Which is exciting. So I'm going to throw you all on my list. And if you would like to participate, I love your feedback.
Heck yeah, thank you. Councilor Noble, go ahead.
I just want to say you really can't overstate the importance of local processing facilities to connect to even enable small farmers to produce. There's so many that have left it altogether because there's months and months waiting. Like you've lost so much money with overgrown stock, and then you have to ship them to central places to get them processed. We're really lucky that we happen to have something starting up in Pemberton, but it's so integral to this whole thing for all small producers.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, again, Nola, that's great. Good to know.
Any other questions or comments? Would somebody like to make a motion to endorse the pledge?
I'll make the motion.
Seconder?
So could we recommend to council,
Oh, sorry.
because we're in committee of the whole,
Right. So
just a reminder.
Yeah, committee of the whole recommends to council that we endorse the pledge as laid out in our report. Moved by Councillor Noble, second by Councillor Zant. Further discussion? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much, Ms. Tenbrink, and good luck on your work.
Thank you.
And I look forward to hearing more and let us know how we can participate.
That sounds great. Thank you for having me. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.
Okay, next up, number 5 is the draft mobile food vendor pilot program policy. That's a title, eh? I'm going to declare conflict on that, as I own a restaurant and a food truck. Councillor Craddock is acting mayor, so he will be chairing this discussion. Gwendolyn, do you want me to just leave the meeting and then come back, or how are you putting me in a waiting room?
I think that we would put you in a waiting room. I believe that's the idea. Just one moment. I can put you on hold. You'll see a blank screen that says you're waiting.
Okay.
Okay.
Is the mayor is gone, is he?
Mayor has gone.
Thank you. Then we'll move to the next item. Sheena, are you going to present, or is Gwendolyn going to present today?
Gwendolyn will be presenting.
Okay, Ms. Kennedy, if you'd like to take us forward with this, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Craddock. And thank you, Committee of the Whole, for taking the time to hear my report. And the purpose of this report is to present for the committee's consideration a draft mobile food vendor pilot program policy. Mobile food vendors are popular in communities with tourists and with locals, adding vibrancy to public spaces and expanding meal and snack options. However, there are a number of policy issues to be considered to ensure that the addition of mobile food vendors to public spaces in Pemberton would benefit both the vendors and the community. The pilot program was conceived as a way for prospective vendors and for the village to test the concept of allowing mobile food vendors to operate at selected locations on public lands within the village for the summer of 2021. The village currently allows mobile food vendors to operate on private lands and limits the number of business licenses issued to mobile food vendors and temporary commercial vendors to 5 in a calendar year. The pilot program would offer permits to qualified vendors for operation at selected locations just for the 2021 summer season. Now, competition with existing brick and mortar establishments needs to be considered in any discussion regarding mobile food vendors due to the perception that they may pose an unfair competitive advantage. And it's true that they do have lower costs, lower startup costs, and lower operational costs, and they do not pay commercial property taxes. However, the model itself comes with its own challenges. They can't offer seating and washrooms and alcoholic beverages. They have a short operating season in Pemberton, certainly. They're vulnerable to changes in traffic. and unpredictable weather. And also they work out of extremely limited space, which limits what they can offer. So the Competition Bureau of Canada considered the question of unfair competitive advantage and determined that mobile food vendors do not have an unfair advantage, and also that they can bring benefits to the community and to existing establishments by attracting new customers. And thus the Competition Bureau of Canada recommends that municipalities not pose unnecessary regulatory roadblocks for mobile food vendors. So the pilot program proposed by staff is based on the model currently used by the RMOW, whereby vendors select locations and dates from a calendar. And this differs from the model most often seen in other municipalities, whereby vendors apply through a competitive process to obtain a prime location, and then they keep that location for the season or perhaps for many years. The staff consider the RMOW model to be particularly well suited to the pilot project because it would allow vendors to test different locations and to apply for as many or as few dates as suits their operational capacity. And also, District of Squamish staff noted that competition for prime spots in Squamish had led to some tension between their mobile food vendors, and some of the vendors had asked that Squamish consider adopting the RMOW model instead. So for the 2021 pilot project, staff are suggesting that we consider the downtown community barn, the 1 Mile Lake lower parking lot, the industrial park, the community center parking lot, and Tendove Park. If the pilot program is supported, staff would prepare and issue a request for expression of interest no later than May 13th, and applicants wishing to be considered for the first round would need to apply by May 28th. And late applications would be accepted on an ongoing basis as long as dates and locations remain available. The village would offer permits specifying dates and locations by June 11th, and then permit holders could apply for a business license. Staff have presented two approaches for the selection of mobile food vendors, shown in tables 1 and 2 on page 23 of the agenda. And the approach more frequently chosen by municipalities maintains a considerable level of oversight, and selection criteria would include experience and competence, proposed service, including the menu, cart design, appearance and functionality, value, sustainability, and commitment to operational hours and references. But if the committee wishes to adopt a less controlling approach as recommended by the Competition Bureau, the first 4 elements of selection criteria could be eliminated, leaving just sustainability, schedule and commitment to operational hours, and references. And also bonus points have been included for Village and Area C residents and business owners to encourage local entrepreneurs to take part in the program. Operational requirements have been included to ensure that mobile vendors operate safely and without negative impact on the neighborhood. And as I mentioned earlier, the village currently limits the number of business licenses issued to mobile and temporary commercial vendors to 5 in a calendar year. And so far, 2 have been given out in 2021. So if the committee supports the concept of a pilot project, the committee may wish to recommend that the limit be eliminated or relaxed, or that holders of mobile food vendor permits be exempted from it. And this could be done through an amendment to the business license bylaw. This concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions and to definitely listen to your comments, your feedback on the whole concept.
Thank you very much for your report. Open it up for questions for Ms. Kennedy. Go ahead, Leah.
What is the cost of the permits?
Through the mayor, we would not be charging for the mobile food vendor permits for the pilot project. There would be the usual cost for a business license, and that is $300.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I can't see you, Councillor Zant, but I'll go to Councillor Antonelli.
Right, it's a pilot project, so I'm just looking for the date that it wraps up. Is there one?
Through the mayor, yes, there is. I can't remember the exact date, but it's the second week of September. The idea was to just have it extend through the busy season for the pilot project.
Right, so just for this year, and then we can
Just for
gauge
this
how
year.
it's going.
That's correct.
Right, okay, right. Well, I'm a big fan of food trucks, and I think this is a really great idea. I do have one concern that comes to mind. I've heard this from several other parents about how junk food is easily accessible to kids. And I think we want to be careful, like schools are doing and community centers are doing these days, to make sure that everywhere kids go, they don't have more access and more view of junk food. Particularly around the beach, 1 Mile Lake, I've heard a number of people mention that it's difficult to go there with their children, knowing that there's candy for sale, or freezies, I guess. So I think we should keep that in mind. I don't know how that could be incorporated into the policy, but I would like to make sure we're, following the trend to make sure that healthy food is in front of children.
Through the mayor.
Acting Mayor Craddock.
Yep. Thanks very much, Councilor Antonelli. Good points. Councilor Zan?
Just further to Councilor Antonelli's comment about the, well, let's say the menu and what they would be offering. I'm wondering if in the table 1 evaluation criteria, if that's where we as council or the policy would have a say into what the said food cart should be distributing.
Through the mayor, yes, Councillor Zan, that was the idea. And I think a lot of municipalities have the same idea, and that's why they do have these selection criteria. They look at the menu. I just wanted to point out, though, that Whistler certainly looks at the menu and evaluates their vendors on that basis, but they also require that vendors offer traditional junk food like popsicles and chips on top of a healthy menu.
How about cookies?
I didn't say cookies.
I think freezies are popular when it's really hot, popsicles
Yeah.
and freezies or something that.
No, they're not. My kids had an ice cream bike once. We got shushed by a mom at the grand opening of the splash park for saying ice cream in front of her children.
It's the difficult one. I totally appreciate.
Mhm.
But
So
I
if I
think
might-
what you could do is definitely, as Ms. Kennedy's indicated, we could go with the more bulky or the extended selection criteria and ask to see menus, and focus on healthy options for sure.
I would agree with that.
So if I might, I've got a couple of comments I'd like to throw out, which is surprising for me. We've just finished a 2-year project with the Chamber of Commerce, along with what was called the Collaborative. That's the 5 First Nations group, the SLRD and the Village of Pemberton. I think here's an opportunity to take a look at the report that was done along with the Chamber of Commerce, like I mentioned, and take a look and see if that doesn't fulfill one of their criteria of that 2-year report. And that's to look at economic development opportunities for people in our own area, rather than bringing people in from outside. I think there's a real good opportunity here right now to support that report and say, let's just go with the people in our valley, because this is just a pilot project. Let's give them the opportunity, whether it be First Nations or somebody in Area C or Village of Pemberton, to actually take part in an opportunity. The other thing I look at here from my perspective is people from out of town that come here usually don't buy materials locally. They don't get their produce locally. They don't get their food sources locally. In a lot of cases, they don't hire locally. And be honest with you, I don't know how many come into town that support local sports, entertainment, arts, and culture. So I guess what I'm looking at is how can we go with this? Because I love the report, I love the idea, but I want to see this remain a valley opportunity rather than bringing people in. And I guess to go further with that, we have to remember that by going with people out of town, they're making a profit on town land that's been paid for by our taxpayer. So how would you feel about that? Someone coming into town, making some money, leaving town, spending it someplace else, but they get to use the land that the local taxpayers have put their taxes toward providing for the community. So I just want to throw those points out. I'm in favor of the idea. I'd like to see it refined a little bit more. I know it's a very short time frame, which is unfortunate. I would love to seen this in February. So locals that don't have food trucks but want to have an opportunity to make a living locally would have had more chance. But maybe if we look at this from a little longer point of view as a pilot project, maybe look at a 2-year project, I really think that we could encourage some First Nations people to come to the community, but they're not going to be able to put a truck together in a 2-week time frame that would propose. So I just want to throw those comments out. I really think we have to look locally for this rather than open it up for opportunities for people outside the community. So is there something we need to do, Sheena, on this, or does
I
any
think
other?
Councillor Noble has her hand up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Noble.
I just want to say, I totally agree with what you just said. I think that's could make for some fantastic amendments to this, and it could support that good food thing that we just went through. And Lilwat has a community farm now, which has been doing amazing. They also have so many trained chefs in the community. And I would really like to see that direction added into this too somehow.
So
Local farms.
So what we could do is, I mean, well, there's a couple things. We could definitely put in the criteria that priority will be given to local operators or local business. We could also just advertise very locally. So rather than put an ad in the Peak News magazine, we could do it through the Chamber of Commerce and through our own, you know, keep it really local. We do have one food truck operator that has come up from Whistler to locate at the brewery at the industrial park. Whistler Wood-Fired Pizza has come up on occasion and had a mobile business license last year. But they're the only one who has come from out of town for some years now. So we do know that there is someone who approached us actually when we were in the process of building this report, because they're interested in doing a food truck. They're local, they live over in the hillside, and had some thoughts around serving that area. So we are anticipating that person will be moving forward with this, with a food truck or a food vendor opportunity if this policy is approved. So again,
I think, thank you, Sheena. I think the other way we can get this out is if we go to the Chamber of Commerce through the collaborative, and they can put it out at their next meeting. I know, again, time frame is very short, but I really want to give an opportunity for us to take a look at that opportunity. That I think there's a real need out there, and I think this is a good way to bring different people into this type of potential business opportunity. And I think, like Councillor Noble said, I've had a lot of tremendous meals out at Lilwat and celebrations and get-togethers, and they've got some great caterers out there, and I think we may find that they would really enjoy the opportunity.
so our intention would be to bring the policy back for council to adopt at the May 11th meeting, with some amendments to address some of the comments that you've brought forward. And then if it's supported on May 11th, we would get the advertising out later that week and move it forward. And the way that Ms. Kennedy has set this up is that if a food vendor is not able to come in before the May 28th deadline, say they had to pull everything together, and they approached us in the middle of June or at the end of June, we would accept their application, absolutely. So, and because we know that this is a pilot project, and we're not, we don't have a whole lot of time. It's not like we're doing this last fall where people will have time. So we're hoping.
I think those are all good comments, and that's why I suggested maybe this should be a 2-year pilot project. If we get the information out this year, even if we don't get some applicants with the pilot project, it may give people the time next fall to put something together and build their cart. So I think this is a really tremendous initiative for the community. I think it's something that a lot of people be happy about. I know there's a lot of bikers that park out at Denduff Park that I think there's sometimes during the day they'd love to come down and have something from a vendor cart out there. So yeah, I think what we'd need is a motion from committee of the whole to council that we go with the recommendations of the committee of the whole and we bring it forward to the May 11th meeting. So
So if I
there's no
could
other-
if I could just clarify with the committee what you would like to see addressed in the amendments that you want to see brought forward. We would like it to be a 2-year pilot project.
I would like
with the local focus,
with a local focus.
healthy food
Yeah, healthy food.
options.
Anybody else?
Definitely support local food options too, as in purchasing locally where possible.
Healthy and local food options in the menu.
Councillor Zant, anything further?
Well, I was just going to ask a quick question about the some more clarification for the locations. I noticed there was 5 locations that were stipulated in the report. And I just want to make sure that we're not, those are village lands. But if the mobile vendor wanted to set up somewhere else, is that still allowed?
If they want to set up on private property through our business license bylaw, they have to have the permission of that private property owner.
Okay.
And they can still do that. But we have a limit of 5 mobile vendor licenses and 2 have already been issued.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we're not, 'cause I know there's the one mobile vendor that's in the the studio park and ride.
Yep.
I wanna
Yeah.
Make sure that we're not going to say, hey, sorry, you can't be there anymore. But just
Well, he's on private land.
right. So he got permission from the private landowner.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Christina. That's all I had.
Thank you very much. Councillor Antonelli, did you have anything you'd like to add to this?
Nope, I think you captured it.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Kennedy, do you have anything that you wanted to make sure that was captured? I just want to make sure that.
No, I
Gwen
think
wants to
this was
say-
it. I think we want to maintain that level of control over selection, and so that's clear.
Okay, then I think we'll entertain a motion to move this forward to council on May the 11th.
Make
Make
the
that
motion.
Thank you, seconder.
Second, Councillor Zant.
Thank you. Anybody opposed? Thank you very much. Motion is approved and we'll look forward to seeing that at the next meeting. Thanks very much for the presentation.
Well, thank you, and I will return Mayor Richmond to the meeting.
Okay, so that am I frozen? Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Yep.
So motion to adjourn committee of the whole is our next
Motion
move.
to adjourn.
Second, Councillor Noble, all in favor, or any opposed? We're adjourned. And then we'll reconvene the regular meeting. So I'll bring the regular meeting back to order and then a motion to go back in camera. Moved by Councillor Craddock, seconded by Councillor Zant. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Sorry.
I'll reopen the regular and then look for a motion to adjourn the regular.
Motion to adjourn, regular council.
I wonder if we could pass along from mayor and council all our best to Nikki and for a speedy recovery too.
I will pass that on.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Have a good day, all.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
You.